I'm Dr. Anthony Harper here with the Intermountain Christian News, interviewing Mr. Steve Pankey, who's running for Idaho Governor. There's a new race this next year for the position of governor. And it's great to have you join me today.
Thank you, Dr. Harper.
You know, people might want to get some more information about your campaign, and I know you have a website, pankeyforidaho.com.
Yes, pankeyforidaho.com.
Okay.
And I appreciate you going there. You can feel free to donate the big bucks up to the limit there. Always remember, of course, $5 is better than no bucks, but feel free to visit pankeyforidaho.com. Also, we've got on the Facebook page some videos that you might want to check out.
Okay. And we've got a couple of important questions to ask you,
Sure.
and we deal with. And later in next year, we'll be having a candidate forum where we have an opportunity for different candidates to talk about the issues. But you have some specific approaches, a lot different from the other candidates. And I wanted to ask your question about what your policy on tax reform for Idaho is.
Tax reform will come in, it has multiple different layers to it. And I state on my ads and all a fair and level, uniform, low-rate business tax across all industries, favoring none and penalizing none. So, in Idaho, this will benefit small business as well as being fair to larger business. Now, as far as you're taking in personal money from you for what you're paying the state of Idaho, the first thing I would like to do is use the money, same dollars, better spent. In other words, really checking where we're spending the money and checking that. Secondly, I would like to reduce our tax take-in and taxes spent by 10% a year. So I want to get back to the constitutional, and I'm talking about the Idaho constitutional spending. Third, as your next governor, your next two-term governor, I would like to completely get rid of Idaho's state income tax. Now that's been around since 1931, and actually Idahoans were promised in the beginning that, you know, it came about in the Depression and it would be rescinded later. It never was. So we need to get rid of that, put more money in your pocket. And fourthly, I would like to wean the state of Idaho over the next two terms off of federal money. In other words, get federal money out of the state of Idaho.
Okay. Well, that's a very important issue, and a lot of voters will be open to hearing a lot of different candidates' perspective on that, but you might say have the most conservative view on tax reform in Idaho.
Absolutely, Dr. Harper. I want all of you to know when the federal government is giving you money, there are strings attached. Mm-hmm. When the federal government isn't giving you money, it's harder for them to micromanage the great state of Idaho. I want local control, local responsibility.
Okay. And about education reform as well. It's a very crucial issue. We've heard the comments about Common Core a lot from time to time. What would you say your policy on education reform in Idaho is?
Well, as far as I am concerned, there is nothing in Common Core that is worthwhile. The only thing Common Core does is dumb kids down to be good little global citizens, and Common Core requires a lot of information on your family. Now, if Common Core were fully implemented in the state of Idaho, we could not have homeschooling, we could not have private schools, we could not have charter schools. Mm-hmm. There is nothing that I can see of any value with Common Core. Now, in my advertising, I state that I prefer school options. So home school, private school, charter school, public school, technical school, and focus degrees in higher education. Now let me explain that real briefly to you on focused degrees in higher education. In colleges now, and in the state of Idaho in colleges, there are some degrees that you kind of make up on your own, like how to live with yourself in a past life, which is totally a waste of time for the taxpayer to be paying for that. So what I'm saying is traditional focused degrees will save us a lot of money in education.
Mm-hmm. For more on that Common Core issue, actually, we've addressed that issue, and that is through our YouTube channel. We have more information for people that want to know about Common Core, and that's been a very emotional issue. President Obama had made that a real big issue, and a lot of people have serious concerns about that. So it's good to get more information about that people can find out through our imcnews.org YouTube channel, through the YouTube logo there. But
sure, and also, Dr. Harper, on this note, for local control, local responsibility, that means that if you have core values and you oppose Common Core, you need to step up to the plate. You need to run for your local school board. You need to check out the people who are running for your local school board and then state your opinion.
Yeah, what has been pointed out is the localization issue. In Common Core, it's a federalization, and needing to bring that education back home, and for people to have the control over here at a local level and the state right issues.
Our founding fathers, their biggest fears were ignorance and concentration of powers. And that's what we're seeing is the federal government concentrating powers in themselves. Now, as far as I'm concerned, President Trump is the best president of the United States in my lifetime. I strongly support him, and I strongly support draining the swamp in the state of Idaho.
That's so important for a lot of people's concerned about that, draining the swamp. And also your policy on immigration. Immigration is a real big deal. A lot of concerns. President Trump has talked about you know, bans from certain countries that are a real threat to America. How do you see immigration reform playing out here in Idaho?
Well, basically, I'm on the same stage, same platform as President Trump. So that's kind of the short answer. Now, I am the father of an adult child who was murdered by an immigrant while he was going to college in Phoenix, Arizona. I identified my son Carl's body. I don't want that to happen to you. That is the hardest thing I ever did in my life. On my son Carl Wesley Pankey's death certificate, it states that his father identified his body. I can't overemphasize it, vetting people coming into this country. Now, in dealing with the immigrants that have already come here, we need to treat them well, and I want to make sure that they have the opportunity in the state of Idaho, for instance, if they want to change religions, if they want to become a Christian, they have every opportunity to do that.
Those are so emotional issues for a lot of people. We've been living in a very uncertain time. A lot of security concerns, and that relates to this immigration issue, and President Trump has definitely been very outspoken about this issue and experienced a lot of opposition. But it's good for people to know where you stand in that, and President Trump's policy as well on immigration.
Correct.
And there are some other issues that we're dealing with, and that is health care. Very important concern for a lot of people. We've heard of people's rates going up on health care since so-called, I guess, Obamacare. I've heard several complaints of people's rates going extremely high, and they couldn't afford insurance. So what is your policy on health care in Idaho?
This is another area where concentrating in either the state government, Idaho state government, or federal government just messes everything up. It diminishes your ability to have competitive health insurance. Now, one thing that I state in my advertising is competitive health insurance across state lines. So the only way that it works, this is a situation that wasn't broke and it shouldn't have been fixed, because the fixed was the problem, not the solution. So I want to get back to where you can buy health insurance across state lines. Now, I've got a personal stake in this. My daughter-in-law, Esther, came to Idaho from her native Peru, met my son Mark, married him. They worked hard. They bought a modest home in a small community in Lincoln County, Idaho, paid cash for it. And anyway, Esther developed breast cancer. And because of Obamacare keep going up and the prices going up and up and up, they lost their medical insurance. Now, to save the home, Esther is now back in Peru getting better health care to treat her breast cancer in Peru than she could get here in the state of Idaho. I want this to sink into you, because all of this nonsense talk about exchanges and all of this kind of stuff with government intervention is just plain baloney. Okay? We need to get back to where you can buy competitive health insurance across state lines. That way you not only get a lower premium price, but also your quality of care goes up. The more competition there is, the better service you get, the better you win.
So this is a very important question about why are you running for governor, and also what's unique about your campaign compared to other candidates?
Well, Dr. Harper, as I've already stated, what's unique to my campaign is I don't take money from lobbyists. So I am a Republican candidate for governor that represents the interest of the sovereign citizens of the state of Idaho, of your best interest, your desires. And I have stated it. My reason for running for governor is to protect your God-given inalienable rights: life, liberty, property, and the pursuit of happiness. Also, a return to state and federally constitutional jurisdiction limited spending. A lot of people don't realize this, but the federal government, their only constitutional mandate for spending is in Article 1, Section 8, and there's only about 15 things there that they are to spend money on. And if we get back to jurisdictional constitutional spending, a lot of the goofy stuff that's going on will be defunded.
I know that you want to make a difference in those areas of education, improving our education system and our health care issue, and making our country safe again. And some very crucial issues. And a lot of good people here in America have seen some really wonderful leadership in President Lincoln. And he has a solution to a lot of our problems. I would invite people to go to our website at imcnews.org. At the very top you'll see President Lincoln and a link to his proclamation. But he really characterized our country's problems very well. And he said, America is a nation that has forgotten God. And I know that you appreciate President Lincoln. Many people respect him. And a lot of people looking for leadership of good character. And it's good to hear from you that the openness about your past and your willingness to make changes in the future and to be here for people and their concerns. We've got a lot of issues to deal with this next year. We can pray that it's a good campaign and that people really will focus on the issues, not personal attacks, which we so often see in politics. Any final message you'd like to share with the Idaho voters?
Sure. First thing I'd ask you to do is make sure you are registered as a Republican voter in the Republican primary, and that'll be in 2018. It'll be through something like March through May 15th of 2018. There are 4 Republican candidates for governor. I would ask you, I humbly ask you to place your vote for Steve Pankey for governor. Then in the general election, vote Steve Pankey for governor. I don't consider myself a politician. I consider myself a statesman. Now, the difference between a politician and a statesman, a politician is looking to do whatever needs to be done to get elected in this cycle. A statesman is looking at 2 or 3 generations down the road, and what can we do that's good for the generation today, but the next generation, the generation after that, and the generation after that. I would also like to appeal to you as Idaho voters, no matter what your race or what your age group is. If you're young and beautiful, 18, and this is your first time voting, I welcome your vote. If you're young and ugly, I welcome your vote. If you're middle-aged, I welcome your vote. If you are a senior citizen and healthy, I welcome your vote. If you're a senior citizen and unhealthy, you really need to vote for me, because we need to get back to buying health care across state lines. So I would really appreciate your vote in 2018 for Idaho governor under the Republican Party.
Well, thank you, Mr. Pankey, for joining me today and sharing your response to those so important issues that a lot of Idaho voters are going to be concerned about. And for more information, as I mentioned, you can check out Mr. Pankey, Steve Pankey's website. That's pankeyforidaho.com, P-A-N-K-E-Y, foridaho.com. Once again, it's been great to be here with Mr. Steve Pankey about very important issues regarding the next Idaho governor race for 2018.